World Sports Show. I'm Charlie Flowe. He's James DiCriscio working the board, and we have special guest, longtime friend James Galanis in studio. It's been a while, but welcome back in the studio, James.
Oh, thanks for having me. It has been a while, hasn't it?
It has been a while. Back to our Central Jersey days of World Sports Show in the middle of the woods. Now we're in the middle of downtown Philadelphia. Quite a change of scenery.
Yeah, it was kind of weird driving in here compared to Florence. We used to.
Yeah, you had to watch out for deer up there. Now it's, I guess you got to watch out for pedestrians, parking, and definitely a change. And it is a neat feeling. It's surreal. We talk about it every week that we broadcast one block from Independence Hall. We're one block from the Liberty Bell. So it's quite a change of scenery being right here downtown Philly. It's a lot going on in the soccer scene, and I know you've been pretty busy. You've been getting on some jet planes here and there, and it's been about a year and a half since we've had to sit down with you. So, I mean, we could cover a year and a half, but we only got an hour. So Thanksgiving was the past weekend. I'm sure everybody here ate very well, and I'm sure that's a holiday you did not mind adopting here in the United States, James.
Yeah, I think it's a great holiday, and I always tell my family back home, I think that the whole world should have Thanksgiving.
Oh, it's great.
Just what it means, and just to reflect and really identify things you're thankful for. It's just amazing. It's a great holiday. It's my favorite now.
Yeah, I know they celebrate in Canada a little bit before us, and in some other countries. I was just doing some reading over the weekend about other countries that have kind of adopted it, and some of the Caribbean islands will celebrate Thanksgiving on the same day as us. So it is kind of neat that it is a unifier of just family and food. I mean, it's as simple as it gets, and obviously, everyone here is a big fan of soccer. I mean, there's American football on, but there also was Europa League on, and even the day before, Champions League. So it was a nice build-up that you can watch some Champions League and some Europa League and then some NFL, and just I think that's the best part, just sitting around, just getting politics out of the mind and just food and sport.
Yeah, it's great. Love it.
So we've had a pretty busy time, getting back on the show, and like I said, I've seen you getting into things, and we'll go over what James has been up to and the things he's involved in. We'll also want to talk more and touch about that CBS special we saw last week where the U.S. women were on 60 Minutes. We're going to finish addressing that. We'll address MLS playoffs. We'll talk about the European updates. There was some Champions League games, and there was some big European matches and some games in England, some coaches not doing their job, some coaches doing their job. College soccer, the men are down to the Elite Eight. The women are down to the Final Four. We'll talk some youth soccer because everybody in this room coaches youth soccer, so we'll all dip into there, and we'll share some more news of what's going to happen next week. So very, very big weekend in this past weekend MLS. And I think the thing that stuck on our mind, which the mailbag blew up, it's just something that I think that we have to address right away, was the messed up field in Montreal.
Yeah. I think that's something we could talk about for a couple shows.
Yeah.
I've never seen it before. I haven't seen it, I don't think, in youth soccer, any level soccer. Getting the 18 box wrong, especially before a playoff game.
Like 3 yards on each side. Did you see that, James, on Tuesday?
I did see it.
Yeah, I know it was kind of. We had some friends hanging out, and we're like, let's watch this game. I'm like, it might be a while, so we had to channel surf for a while to find something else on T because that was Tuesday night. So
Tuesday night, just to set it up, it was a game in Montreal. Normally, the Montreal Impact play their home games. Let me see if I can pronounce it right. Stadia Saputo.
I don't know. Your French is better than mine.
I'm probably far off. But anyway, this game was at Olympic Stadium in Montreal, where the lines had to been put down prior to the game fresh. So that I guess, if you want to explain why the lines were put down incorrectly.
Yeah, here's the neat part. So they had such a demand because Montreal, they're a newer team at MLS. They've been around since 2011. I mean, they've had their pro team for a while. They've been in and out of different leagues, but now they're getting to host the Eastern Conference Finals, and they had such a demand for tickets, they had to move it to the Olympic Stadium, which holds over 60,000. So they had, from a stadium that holds about 20 to 30,000, they moved it over to the Olympic Stadium, holds 60,000, and so the referees got stuck in traffic. The referees didn't get there till 15 minutes before kickoff, I'm heard, and they didn't get a chance to measure the field. And then they realized that the 18-yard box was 3 yards too narrow. So they would have literally had to move it wider by a yard and a half each side on both sides. So they're out there putting green tape. It's turf, so it's not like they can just go out there and kind of erase or scratch it off. So they have to lay down green tape, and then had to repaint. And then I did some more research. Well, how does this happen? So what happened was the guy that maintains the field measured from the touchline, not the goal, not the actual goals. He measured from the touchline because Stadio Stadium's wider. So he just used that measurement. Maybe I pace off 20 steps.
Oh, I see.
And they had practiced on it for 5 days. I also read that Montreal had been practicing for 5 days and nobody picked it up. But it's a yard and a half on each side. How do you really? It's so easy to miss.
That's the home cooking that they were looking to
narrow the game.
Yeah, right.
So it's a very interesting thing that you and I, John, have marked fields. I'm sure every soccer coach in the world has been involved in marking fields, but that just must drive a coach and management insane because they had to wait 40 extra minutes. They had to do a second warm-up. I mean, I don't know how it feels as a coach. I mean, especially going into an Eastern Conference final. You're trying to get into the Cup.
Well, I'll tell you what, after the delay, the home team came out smoking, scoring a couple early goals. But, seeing the lines like that was a 40-minute delay just for there was a game in back of it. The Seattle game was following it.
Yeah.
So with the late push that game back,
it lapped over. And I'm sure that killed ratings. And it was funny. Taylor twittered me that the quote of the night. He goes, "I've never been so exciting watching paint dry."
Yeah. I mean, the Montreal fans were cheering every time that the guy would the grounds crew would get down, put a line down. They would all stand up and cheer.
I mean, I've been involved in some flooded fields where games have been canceled. Have you ever been involved in something like that where the field's just totally lined wrong, James, or it just doesn't seem right?
Yeah, it happens. Believe it or not, it happens. But for it to happen at the professional level and so deep into MLS playoffs, it's kind of a black eye for the league, isn't it? It did get some attention around the world, and there was quite a few people around the world that were laughing. So
I think
that was the negative part. I mean, it happens, but to happen on such a big stage, it's definitely a negative.
And especially the way that it happened, that you measuring from the outside line. I mean, that's a mistake a child would make. Not to throw this guy under the bus, but I will throw him under the bus. Why would you think to measure from the outside in?
I mean, I think you threw him under the bus when we started talking about it on the show, covering 800,000 people.
I think people in Montreal...
He doesn't do it every week, mate. That's what it is. He's obviously part of that Olympic Stadium.
Yeah.
That's their grounds crew. And
throw him from a grass to a turf situation.
Yeah, he had no idea what he was doing, the poor guy. So
I think I was making the joke. He was using the meter stick instead of the yardstick.
I mean, you just said maybe a flood. I think it came, I know we were talking, this is going back a couple years about a national level game. I believe it was Poland, England, that there was a flood before.
Oh, yeah, World Cup qualifiers. Yeah, or a World Cup game, was it?
So pretty much it pushed the game back a day and to Poland's favor, I believe. They got
No, I think it was the Germany's favor. It was Germany and Poland.
Poland.
A World Cup game or something like that, or qualifier. I have some Polish friends that are very sensitive about this, that the Germans were so fast that the rumor is the Polish kind of broke their own sprinklers on purpose and kind of flooded the field in a qualifier to slow the Germans down.
The whole theory of the team having caffeine before the game and it set them back, the preparation. I think Germany or Poland got the result.
Yeah, just flood the field.
I'm having a flashback here from 5
or maybe it's
years
the other
ago.
way around. I don't know. Whatever way it was, is I know that I think Poland wasn't happy with it. I think maybe the Germans flooded the field. I'll have to actually look. That's a good trivia thing. If anybody out there knows, email us at mailbag@worldsportshow.com. Let us know, because a little rusty on my history, I guess, in the 50s or 60s whenever this happened. So, I mean that's the whole thing is, like, you would tell us about that when you were coaching Atlanta Beat. You got your lawn maintenance guy. You want to cut the grass to what fits your team the best, and it's not cheating. You want the length that works the best for your team.
Yeah, that's right. That's a strategy these days. If you're playing against a team that's fast, you want to leave the grass a little bit long to slow the ball down a bit. If you're a good passing side, you want it nice and short. Some coaches prefer wet surfaces so the ball skids across. It all depends, and that's part of the home field advantage. So you take advantage of it.
Yeah, even just the whole grass and turf debate. Certain teams have never played on turf or have never played on grass, and that hometown bounce that you used to your field. Even if you play on a bad field, you know it better than any other team, and that has been a big factor in a youth game where teams have different budgets, so you don't know what kind of field you're going to get. I'm sure you've seen it a lot in your youth coaching.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about sprinklers. I'm just going to throw you a quick story. The first time I went to Olympic Stadium in Rome, and by myself, I took a self-field trip. I was on vacation. I was noticing the firemen were coming out and watering down the field. Then they were watering down the track, like the Olympic track outside.
Around it.
I'm like, what's going on here? right before the game started, the fans were lighting road flares and throwing them over. I'm like, oh, okay, so they don't burn the place down. So I figured it out real quick. But, it's totally different culture with, soccer fans where I guess they can bring road flares into the stadium and just chuck them over. So I guess the firemen put them out real quick.
There you go. Well, I remember being up in Canada for the Women's World Cup, and I was at the China and USA game that was in Ottawa. And speaking of fire hoses, that was interesting because a lot of these infrastructure didn't have built-in sprinklers, so they were coming out there before the match and halftime with a fire hose. It's the most interesting to see 50 to 60 workers carrying a fire hose and just watering it down because the turf was just that hot.
Yeah, they were doing that. Yep.
So it's interesting to see all these different methods. I mean, that's more of a trying to make an even playing field because when you're playing on a neutral site, you don't really have that home field advantage. So U.S. ended up winning that game. That was a 1-0 Carly Lowe goal. That was the first game of the knockout stage, and we all know what happened there. It just got better as the tournament went on.
I mean, James, to your memory, what's the hottest turf condition or field you've ever seen in a game?
Well, every summer, I mean, the turf fields, there's been summers over the last, decade or so that the field's been sitting on 130, 140, where you can actually see the heat just coming off the surface. And, these poor kids play on it. It's a problem not only for in the heat department, but also I think in the cold department too. A couple of weeks ago, remember that Sunday was really windy and it was freezing. These poor kids played through those conditions.
Oh,
so it's horrible in the summer, but it's also horrible in the winter. But yeah, about 130, mate.
That's crazy. 130. I mean, that's when your bottom of your foot, the studs start getting soft.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen studs like actually really wear out from the heat and kind of start to peel off from the heat. So
wow. That's the thing too when they talk about the watering of the pitch, that when you do see them watering these turf fields before the match, that's why it's so crucial to water it multiple times, because then you end up with hot water. It makes the actual situation worse. We get that evaporation situation going on where it just makes it even worse. So that's a whole nother story, and gosh, we could spend hours just talking about field maintenance. And then we look at the other team in the MLS. It was Colorado and Seattle. Interestingly, they also played Tuesday, but then they ended up playing their second leg last night, and Seattle went through 1-0, advanced through in their two legs they go through, so they're sitting in the final right now just waiting for the Wednesday matchup, which is odd how the scheduling works, that we're waiting for the rematch of Toronto and Montreal for this coming Wednesday, and we just had Seattle and Colorado finish up last night.
Yeah, you would think that a big name player like Clint Dempsey, not playing pretty much the last quarter of the season, that your playoff hopes will be all but gone. But I mean, they really turned it up. I mean, rookie of the year, that Jordan Morris, he's been on fire. I mean, scoring in just about every game he's played. I mean, he's could have had a couple more. He's leading the playoffs in goals, and he's looking really good. Real good prospect for the national team.
And I know he's going to turn the other pages to Colorado fans. You got to always wonder about Tim Howard. That was the big thing, bringing Tim Howard in MLS, and they were making a run, played so well in the shootout against LA Galaxy, gets hurt against Mexico a couple weeks ago, doesn't play in the playoffs. Zach Math comes in. He did his job, but he still makes you wonder. He's not Tim Howard.
Yeah, that generalship is tough to replace, a seasoned national team player. You're right, McMath did do his job, but you got to score goals.
Yeah.
1-0 loss to finish out the season is kind of tough to swallow. So
yeah, those are the tougher ones when you, as a goalkeeper, you did your job most of the game, and when you don't score, you can't advance. So looking at December 10th is the actual MLS final, and that'll be on the Fox networks, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific for the Seattle fans out there, to be determined, because Montreal just squeaked by Toronto 3-2, so Toronto's got to be feeling good. I mean, you're only down a goal. You got a couple road goals in your back pocket, so we'll see. We've seen Toronto do some amazing things this year, and sometimes they just fall off, but to be down 3-0 on the road and just hang in there and get 2 second-half goals, I mean, that really just changes the whole complex of this game on Wednesday night.
I mean, to be honest, it's interesting, when we talk about aggregate goals in the playoffs, going back maybe 5-10 years ago to the casual American soccer fan. I mean, really trying to figure out what the aggregate score is with home, because in playoff systems in the major four sports, they don't really have an aggregate system. But it seems like now it's just
we've adopted it and understand
common
it.
knowledge. People are Flowe, hey, 3-2. Them goals are important. So it's good to hear that talk. It's not fans are getting more educated, more local fans. So it's good to see.
It is interesting because the fans know it, and then you have the fans now that aren't just at the sports bars. Like when we're at the sports bars, like, why are these Toronto fans celebrating? They're losing 3-1. I'm like, well, they now really are only down 2-0, and they got a road goal. I mean, you put yourself into hot water as Montreal. You're better off just winning 1-0.
Yeah, considering, a lot of these playoff games where home field advantage is major, an away goal is good to see. This way, these teams aren't exactly parking the bus and not having no offenses being generated. This way, you're going to make a game. You're going to give the fans some goals, have some excitement, and see a balanced game rather than a lopsided, 80%, 90% possession to one side. So, the aggregate's a good little touch, good little spice on there.
I'm going to throw something to both of you guys. It always kind of sticks with me that usually in the MLS playoffs here, the team with the better record gets the first game. And I always like the idea being that road team first, because then you're going home knowing what you need. I don't know if you have a preference, James, because they usually have the first leg team is a team with a better record. So now Toronto's going home, and they know what they only got to get one goal to go through.
Yeah, I mean, if I could make a choice, I would definitely go with playing home the second game.
Yeah.
And the mentality always is there: go out there, play defensive. Try to get out of there with at least a tie.
Yeah. And
get back to your own field and just open it up and try to score and win. So, yeah, I think the way that we have it should be the other way around. That the team that finishes higher up the ladder should actually play home the second game.
Yeah, especially when you get into that extra time, you get bonus, like overtime, extra time, whatever term you want to call it here in the United States, that's to the advantage of the home team. To the now home team, which was originally the road team, you're getting extra time in your house when the goals are so much more important. But we'll see what that all comes out. We do know that there will be a Canadian side in the final, and that's a big progression for the Canadian side and big progression than MLS itself. So
it's awesome.
Yeah, it's good to see. Canada's been great for the game of soccer this past year. They hosted the Women's World Cup last summer, and we saw the game growing up there, and they've been doing great supporting their men and women's team. And sadly, their men's team hasn't qualified for the World Cup in a very long time. So, was it 74? I don't know. I'm just going off the top of my head. I'm trying to think of That's a good trivia question. I'm trying to think of when.
Throwing some stumpers when we don't have Google in front of us.
Yeah. So, we're going to look at some of the European things. There's been some coaches out there that have had their new teams this year. There's been success, and some coaches are overrated. So I'm just going to throw this out to you guys there. What coach do you think's underperforming the most this season in a European league?
Well, the obvious one is Mr. Mourinho.
Yeah.
He's he doesn't look happy. He looks frustrated. They've had some bad luck, but considering all his success and the amount of money that they've spent, and the resources that they have, they're really not doing well, are they? And he's probably the one that sticks out the most for me, anyway.
Yeah, I definitely agree there, and I think that it's one of these things that now we're on the third manager / coach for Manchester United since the parting ways of Alex Ferguson. When he named parting ways, he stepped away from the game. It wasn't that he could have stayed there till the end of his life, but it really goes to show you how good of a coach he was and how good it was he was handling all these different superstars, because we saw him with so much talent, so many superstars, but he made it work. And we've seen that struggle with Jose, with Chelsea. We've seen him with the struggles in Europe and the Italian leagues where he sometimes falls out of favor with players and he loses the players. And I think that's what happened in Chelsea. You lose the players, you can't go anywhere.
Yeah, look, he has a history of playing really, really defensive.
Yeah.
And all the titles that he's won have been strictly through, the defensive system. In fact, the whole parking the bus thing, that comes from Mourinho. And he did it with Porto. He did it with Chelsea. He did it with Inter Milan. He went to Real Madrid, and the fans of Real Madrid didn't accept parking the bus.
You're not going to do that there, Madrid.
Yeah, so he had to attack, and he didn't do well there. Then when he went back to Chelsea, I'm guessing Abramovich told him, look, you can come back, but we want attacking soccer. Tried to play attacking and failed, and there's no way he can play parking the bus and Man United neither, because the fans, their expectations are so high, and when you take into consideration all the money that's been spent, to sit there and park the bus is not something that he's able to do. I'm sure that's what he wants to do. He did it against Liverpool, but if he did it week in, week out, the fans would be going nuts on him. So, I think his strength is parking the bus, and he's not allowed to do that with the clubs that he's working at.
Well, that's the thing, is he's taken over these clubs that have been very traditional teams that they're used to winning championships and that's it. But when he takes a Porto team and out of nowhere he wins the Champions League years ago, it just was one of those things where you're getting players to believe in themselves, that kind of some players that were not really necessarily written off, but players that weren't expected to perform at the high level. So it's easier to motivate those guys. But then when you get these guys, they're used to putting up 4 to 5 goals a game. If they really put their all out there, to suddenly change that mentality, you're going against their DNA.
Yeah, that's right. You can't get those type of players to sit behind the ball and just absorb pressure.
He's a guy,
and play on
if he took
counter-attack.
over like Bolton or like what Leicester did last year, that played good with what they had and just used pure football. Yeah,
underdogs.
Exactly.
With underdogs, he does well.
Yeah, maybe Bob Bradley will be out of job soon. They can just trade. So no, he's a coach that I'd say hasn't impressed me, but he was put in such a tough situation with Swansea.
Get in there and win.
Yeah.
Win now.
That's
6, what was it got, 12 games?
Yeah, he hasn't won a game yet. So he lost 5-4 on Saturday. I mean, that's a tough one. You put up 4 goals, but then you give up 5. Well, coaches stick out in your mind as coaches now that have really taken over a club in the last 2 years and really put their stamp in and really, I guess, revitalized the club, and now they're on the up and up.
Coaches that have done that?
Yeah.
You're saying? Well, the one that impresses me the most, it hasn't been a couple of years, but I think he's the best coach in the world at the moment, is Diego Simeone of Atletico Madrid. I think he's doing a great job. Obviously, Conte's doing a good job with Chelsea. Klopp's doing a great job. And just talking about Bradley, I mean, it's hard to kind of just hop in after the season started and you haven't really been there the whole pre-season, be able to lay down all your expectations and really draw up your plan and educate the team the way you want it to be educated. So, he's been put in a difficult situation, and hopefully he has success and he can continue to implement his philosophy. If not, this is a big gig for him. If he fails here, it's going to be hard for him to get another big job.
Yeah, I think it's always a tough thing when you inherit a team and you didn't get to pick your team. And the thing is, like Jose over the last couple of years, he's gotten to pick his teams, and it's such a hard thing too. Is he's got that American thing on his back too, and it's just like that. We as Americans, we've done great coaching our games, but it's tough, to see an American go abroad. He did coach Egypt, he coached the U.S., and he's had success. But that thing is always weighing on his back, that the journalist there, and the thing is, like, if you're American, you have to almost write off that, hey, I'm a good soccer coach, I'm not just American, but I didn't get to handpick my squad. He wasn't there for tryouts and trials, and you have to work with what you have. And we've seen a lot of coaches in America that have a hard time with that. And I believe maybe a 2 to 3 year plan that you have to have patient enough ownership to understand that it's going to take time for me to let me pick my guys and guys that can play my system. But a lot of these owners, don't exactly have, especially Swansea, they don't have billions and millions to just throw and go buy players. So you have to be very good at developing players, and that takes time. So just letting everybody know you're listening to World Sports Show on WPPM FM LP Philadelphia. I'm Charlie Flowe with Coach John DiCriscio. You're a coach too, and
That's
Coach
right.
James Galanis. So.
No, there's only one coach in here, let's be honest.
Well, yeah, we bow to him.
No, you don't.
So this is the interesting time of the year that the fall seasons are starting to wrap up, and we're looking towards getting into the winter tournament. What do you do within your transition? Is there some time off you take in like December, just kind of relax and get ready for the winter seasons?
Yeah, we shut down all of December and actually half of January, just rejuvenate, let our players kind of miss the game a little bit. Let them go home and reflect and think about the season that went by and grow mentally and, like I said, let the body recover and then start again in January and start chipping away and work the spring season.
Now, what are some of the programs you work out on in the winter? Is it the futsal programs or indoor? Because, I mean, a lot of times we can be very limited because the weather here in this area in Philadelphia, if you're just not allowed to be on pitches and just with the weather being snow to catch you, what do you do? What do you work on with your programs at Universal and Medford?
We use hardwood floors. We got gyms that have walls, so we're able to use the walls to practice a lot of the skills up against the walls. We don't do futsal, but we do play 5v5 and 4v4, but with a real ball, a small real ball.
Okay.
I think futsal's great. The whole concept, a small ball in tight spaces, playing on a hardwood floor, I think it's great. I'm just not a fan of the actual ball because it's heavy. I think the ball sticks to everybody's feet, and you're kind of taking away an important element of the game, which is first touch. So, I just force our players to play with a real small ball, and they've got to have a good first touch. So it's like futsal, but with a real ball. So that's what we do, and we focus on that for 2 months through the winter, and we find players really improve.
I'll tell you one thing's for sure about the small ball is playing keeper with futsal. That ball is quite heavy, and I've taken quite a few shots in the face with that ball. And it just leads to a bloody nose or a broken nose.
Or concussions.
Yeah, and these poor little kids, they can't kick that ball. I mean, they really struggle to kick it, and you can't do things with it. Like, when you put your players in these little spaces, like a little basketball gym where you're playing, you want to be able to do chips and scoops and benders, and you want to put it over people's feet, and you want the ball to actually be able to move. That futsal ball, it doesn't move. It's hard to do benders with it. It's hard to do scoops with it. It's hard to do a lot of things. It's hard to shoot with it. I mean,
you're not putting spin on a shot there.
Yeah, you're not putting spin on there. And the best shots with a futsal ball, and the pros that play futsal, they actually toe it. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, it's I scored a lot of toe pokes.
Yeah, because that's how you shoot that ball, and that's how it flies. Using your toe. So, yeah, just not a fan of the ball, but definitely love to play the small-sided games indoor throughout the winter.
Yeah, John and I joke because we play a lot of futsal that it does give you that sense of you got great touch, but then you get out on the field and you go to trap a size 5 ball. It floats right over your foot.
Let me correct you there. I could use a Velcro ball with Velcro shoes, and I still won't have good touch. So let's
There's the invention of the year.
Yeah.
There's your Cyber Monday. Right. Plug Velcro shoes and a Velcro ball. No, but it is true. It does give you that sense, But it's good for like old guys who want to go out and just have a little kick around and not have to go chase a ball for hours. But it is true because it is a tough adjustment, when I'm going to coaching for Philly U and then going and playing futsal within the same week. It does kind of mess different with your head.
Yeah,
the way the trap is and the way that the touch is, and sometimes we joke that the ball gets stuck on your foot and you trip over your own feet.
Right.
With futsal, so they all have their purpose and they all serve different purposes. But yeah, it's good to experience all the different things and just working on your footwork too. I mean, that's a great thing about the gym when we're using a size 5. You're getting a perfect surface. That pass, the kids can really see. They can't blame the hull, it's the turf, it's the grass, it's the surface. You can really, really work with their skills there too.
Yeah, and the ball flies across the surface, so the ball's coming at you with speed, so you do build your skills.
Yeah. So it does kind of, in a way, for defenders, slows the game down when you come to a regular surface, so I'm sure that can come into factor too.
That's right. When you go back outside on the grass, the game seems slower. I mean, even Carly, I train her inside on a basketball court on purpose. We can go onto turf indoor fields, and we don't. We've been doing the same thing for 14 years, and we go in there on purpose because when you can dribble and you can control the ball and you can handle passes along a a basketball court where the ball's flying. When you go outside and you're on the grass, the game just seems so much slower.
That's the thing that John and I talk a lot about is the smaller spaces, especially when you talk 5v5, is the touch per minute ratio. You know, we've talked about all these shoes that are invented that'll track how many miles or kilometers you've run per game, but we definitely want to look into creating an app for boots of how many touches per game you get. Like in a 10-minute game outside, you might touch the ball maybe 1-2 times, but on a 5v5 indoor like that, I mean, it's not even touches per 10 minutes, it's touches per minute.
Yeah, it's not only the touches. The touches is a big part of it.
Yeah.
But you're also mentally engaged the whole time.
Yeah, there's no slacking off.
Yeah, there's, you 20 yards up the field, you're in the attacking zone. If it comes back there, you're in your defending zone. So you're constantly making decisions too, which is even bigger than the touches. So having the small-sided, you got the touches, but when you think about what it does to you mentally, you can't switch off. You can't take a break. If you take a break, it's going to start raining goals. If one of you takes a break in a 4v4 or a 5v5, you're going to be exposed.
Speaking of break, do you want to take a quick break and come right back?
Let's catch our breath real quick, take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is Denise Adams, and you're listening to World Sports Show on WPPM 106.5 Philadelphia.
Last week on World Sports Show.
I'm serious. I've always been at home or a relative's house. I've never gone out for Thanksgiving dinner. And I'm kind of tempted to let somebody else cook for me.
I mean, you're at the point where you should just go out and get a Thanksgiving hoagie, bring it back and eat the old
Thanksgiving hoagie. Swing by, get the gobbler.
Get the gobbler.
Why not,
Yeah.
And now, back to the WPPM studios in Philadelphia. This is the World Sports Show.
And Charlie Flowe here, World Sports Show, WPPM LP Philadelphia. He's John DiCriscio working the board. Coach James Galanis also at the mic. We're going to talk some women's and men's soccer, NCAA variety. The women are down to their final four. I think the interesting part, before I go and tell everybody who went through, all four quarterfinal games ended 1-0.
1-0
about
every
that?
game.
Yeah, that tells me that it's a flip of a coin. It could have been any of those 8 teams could have been in the Final Four. When every game ends 1-0, that's just how good it is. And I look at it as those are some good games. I watched a couple of them. Maybe the casual fan wants to see a 5-4 or 3-2. No, I love the 1-0 because it just shows you how tight these teams are. It only took one mistake or one blunder for every team to go through.
I'm a 2-1 type of guy.
You're a 2-1. You want to see a little bit of drama? You're a tomato guy. I'm a tomato guy.
1-0.
So, looking at our bracket, we had Santa Clara, which, John, you had them going all the way. Georgetown took them down 1-0.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
So,
Possibly goal of the tournament?
a goal of the century, man.
Yeah, it was a nice goal.
So, yeah, check that out if you get a chance to hop on, I guess, Twitter's or NCAA.com. They've got some great highlights of all these games, and they've been broadcast on ESPNU's been carrying them, or ESPN apps have been to have a lot of these games. Looking at the other bracket, Southern California, SoCal, takes out Auburn by score 1-0. Makes my job easy here. I wouldn't call it the upset of the tournament, but I really thought South Carolina was going to beat UNC, but it's UNC and South Carolina. You got regional rivals, and UNC they win championships. They produce national team players. They just win championships. So, and Duke loses 1-0 to West Virginia. I'm sorry.
West Virginia.
Yeah, sorry.
Beats Duke 1-0.
Sorry, that's what I meant to say. West Virginia
there.
beats Duke by a score of 1-0. So West Virginia will take on Carolina. Georgetown will take on Southern California. So those are our final four, and that'll be this coming weekend in San Jose.
I just wanted to point out a lot of people sent in emails saying that they liked hearing actually radio shows talk about college soccer, which is, in the Philadelphia area, not too common. So thank you, everybody. It's mailbag@worldsportshow.com. Keep sending in that feedback this way.
Yeah, love it.
What you guys want to hear.
So
Chime in. Let us know your picks, too. We get some people with predictions. Somebody SoCal going all the way.
All right, so now we're down to 4 teams left.
So,
Gentlemen, who wins it all?
North Carolina.
That's what I'm thinking, North Carolina as well.
oh no, Georgetown's got destiny because they're knocking out my teams.
That's what it is.
If I can't beat them,
Join them.
Right.
Yeah, so, hey, let's see. Maybe you'll have a North Carolina, Georgetown. But, I mean, when you look at this level, all 4 of these teams can be debated that they have a right to be there, and any one of them could win the national title, and it wouldn't be considered an upset.
You're right about that.
And when they're that good at teams, I mean, and that highly scouted teams and that well done. So, yeah, looking forward to the final, and check it out. It'll be on ESPNU. The final is this December the 4th at 6 p.m., but you still have the semifinals that'll be December the 2nd, 7:30 for the Georgetown Southern California game, and for the other game, North Carolina and West Virginia, that'll also be December the 2nd, but that'll be at a 5 o'clock p.m. kickoff time. So tune in.
It's getting really accessible watching college soccer on
Watch it on your phone.
on the
That's
smart
the cool part.
Yeah, on my smart TV with the Watch ESPN app. Boom.
Yeah, can't beat that at all.
Boom,
Looking
done.
over to the men's side, they're down to 8 teams left. Providence go through by beating Creighton 2-1. North Carolina go through by beating Syracuse 1-0. Stanford, a double overtime winner, 1-0 over Virginia. Louisville tops Notre Dame 3-1. Wake Forest, my parents' alma mater, tops SIUE by a score of 2-1. Virginia Tech in overtime defeats Indiana 2-1. Denver with a 2-1 victory over Washington, and Clemson tops Albany, New York by a score of 3-1. So anybody out there got a pick there to win it all? I'm still sticking with Wake Forest. That's my squad.
Stanford.
Ooh, I think I'm gonna have to go with Louisville. Been watching Louisville highlights. They're been giving up a lot of chances, but putting a couple in.
All right, so we got 3 different picks here
3
for the
different
finals,
picks.
so that's not bad.
So the finals will be in Houston.
Yeah. This will be warm weather.
Yeah, warm
I mean, San
weather.
Jose's warmer, but definitely be no snow in the forecast for those games, because I know they've had some of the NCAA finals here in Philly, right down there in Chester. So those are some chilly finals when Notre Dame won that a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
That was a pretty cold final. So, hey, and don't sit on Providence. They're probably one of the local, I wouldn't say local team, but they're the closest local team we have. If you want to put regional, So
It's interesting the Wake Forest, Virginia Tech. It's
it's interesting. My brother's a graduate of Virginia Tech. My father's a graduate of Wake Forest. So neither of them played soccer, but I mean, at the end of the day, if it's your alma mater, you don't care what sport it is, you're going to cheer for it.
right. Also, again, just like I mentioned, fire in your comments, feedback, mailbag at worldsportshow.com.
I think we should crack open the old mailbag.
Let's go.
Let's do it. We're busting it out. Gentlemen, I've got some questions addressed to each of you here. I'm going to try out my reading skills and see what happens.
And also, when people do send them in, we see all of them, and we do evaluate. There's some ones that I wish we could mention on air, but
Crock pot, recipes. Those are always, they're not really questions. They're more of a thank you. Thank you for all the turkey recipes that'll be out there.
Right.
That's what I had for dinner tonight.
I
Turkey.
think we should do best of, worst of, because we get some really great ones. Then we get, some people just want to fire
wanna
away
harp on us.
I like when people fire away at us.
Red Bull Ron,
Red Bull Ron,
busting chops.
Right.
All right, let's look. We got Tim from Montreal. Did you see what happened in Montreal? 18-yard box. How could this happen? So we've talked a little bit about this. I mean, these things happen.
Tim, it happened.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
over with Tim.
Next.
Your team won 2-3.
Right.
Can't blame it on the 18-yard boxer, can you?
Right.
So, all right. Question from Janice from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Thoughts on kids playing more than one sport?
Thoughts on kids?
Yeah, thoughts on kids playing more than one sport.
Go for it, James. We'll throw it at you first.
The pressure's on.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with playing more than one sport. Definitely nothing wrong. But what is wrong is trying to be the best at multiple sports. Very difficult to do. I think you used to be able to do it back in the day. But now with specialized training and how every sport has kind of become a full-time sport, it's just impossible to be great at 2 or 3 sports like you used to back in the day. So I encourage my players to play other sports, but at a low level. Don't try to be great at every single sport. It's great for motor skills to play other sports. You learn things from other sports, but just specialise in one and have fun in the others and extract the positive things of playing multiple sports.
To piggyback on that, which I totally agree with, my thing is with the parents and, when you got multiple sports, you can't go, travel, like the burden on the parents because the distance here, especially with,
travel stuff.
Baseball or hockey.
You can't do it.
You're traveling an hour, 2 hours, say.
Well, first, can I just hop in there? Sorry.
No, go for it.
Look, every long weekend, Labor Day, Memorial Day, and so on, that is a time when every sport has a tournament. Right. So if you're doing multiple,
you got to pick a favorite, and then
you're
you're letting somebody hanging. You're leaving somebody
you're
hanging.
leaving people hanging.
Yep.
So what is that teaching your kids? Seriously, you're committing to a sport, but you're really not committing to a sport. You're kind of bouncing in and out depending on what's going on. So that's why I don't agree with it.
Yeah, it kind of stinks. It's a situation my nephew's got himself into. He plays soccer and he plays ice hockey. Amazing at both sports, but he's the only goalie in ice hockey. He went out and bought the equipment, so it's cool that he liked that position, but now he's sucked himself in a position that he's the only one that can really actually play goalie. And the same thing can go in soccer. If you got a guy that's really good in goal, but he goes and wants to play in a basketball tournament for the weekend, and it's like, well, you go and play. We don't have a goalie. We're going to automatically get lit up. So I think that the way you look at it is if you are going to commit to these travel sports that require you to be there, then I got no problem with you playing like in rec league. I did soccer like on the club and high school level, but I played recreational basketball in the winter because we just didn't have the indoor leagues back in the 80s and early 90s. But the basketball was my second sport, it's just a recreational thing to work out. But it's one of the things where soccer first, that you don't ever let that interfere. So, yeah, I'm fine with that, them playing the multiple sports. But when you're committing to multiple teams, I have, heard these kids, they'll play multiple games in a day, and you really almost burn yourself out. And these are the kind of kids that maybe hate sports at the end of the day because they're burning themselves out playing 2 or 3 games a day. It's
burning the parents out as well.
Oh, my gosh.
Some days it's travel. The leagues now, if it's not intramural, it's, a, quote, travel league. We're traveling from, Philadelphia, maybe 30, 40 miles coming back. Then the other sports, another 20 miles in the opposite direction. And that basically it's a day event. You got to plan a whole day around a game. So, we went to intramural soccer this year, which is competitive intramural, which is great. Same field, same time. It works out like a charm.
Moving forward, I had another couple questions in here we've kind of already addressed, but let's look at this one. It said, what style would fit the U.S. men moving forward with Bruce Arena? Carl from Northeast Philly.
I'm going to say 70s clothing. Tie-dye. You talking clothes or are we talking...
I know you're busting chops with style. Go with the side chops.
Bad play on words.
Shorter shorts, so they're more mobile.
I do like the 92 World Cup kit.
There you
94, I'm sorry. But let's go back. What did Bruce Arena bring to the table the first time?
I think that he's an American, and I think that's what they need right now, an American player, coach that understands our system and understands the identity of our players, where I think Klinsmann, one of his problems was just trying to make us a European side when we're not. I got no problem with bringing in the German Americans, but I think that that's what really was our identity, what we had success in the 2002 World Cup when we went so far, is this, we use the talent we have, we play like that American style.
Right. Well, my thing is he needs to identify what the goals, who he needs to beat. In my opinion, Klinsmann was trying to beat the world, the top-level teams, where we can't even beat Mexico.
You can't even beat anybody in CONCACAF.
We need to be able to compete with our closest enemies.
Yeah, our federation.
Costa Rica, Honduras. We need to beat our federation first. And I think that, Klinsmann got a little bit too spread out. The formation wasn't geared towards beating our neighbors. We were trying to beat everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think... The style has to be American style, okay? The players here, they're great mentally. They're mentally tough. They can get on a good game plan in terms of being disciplined and organised and so on. they're fit, they're strong, they're athletic. There's a lot of great qualities in the American player. So we've got to grab those qualities and use them to our advantage. You can't go and play a Dutch system or a German system or whatever with an American player. You got to create your own, and that's the beauty of the game. And I feel that with Jurgen, we kind of lost that, tried to be European, constantly in experimentation mode. A lot of players in and out the whole time. I remember there was a period there the back line just kept changing over and over again.
It drove me nuts.
Yeah, do you remember that?
Exactly. Absolutely.
I think we had jokes on the show, but can you name the U.S. starting back line? You're like, I can't tell you. I don't know what day it is.
I mean, going back to Onyewu and then Omar Gonzalez and then
and I think Bruce is going to do a good job. I mean, he knows he's a good man manager. He gets the most out of his players. He knows how to deal with players with big personalities, as you've seen that in LA.
He wins in LA.
Yeah, and he's the perfect man for the job right now. And I'm glad they made this move. And if anything, it's going to put everybody back in a pot and show me what you can do.
Yeah, I think
there's
that
a few of these guys were complacent. There were some players that weren't playing.
Yeah,
that were getting picked for the US team, but they were struggling on their own team. I mean, that doesn't send a good message to anybody in that squad.
Yeah, you're rewarding mediocrity, or you've got your hand-picked guys. But I think that he's not removed far enough. It's only been a few years, and 5 years is not that long where he still has that identity and he still has players in that system that he's used to. So let's hope it all works out. He's got time until March to do a lot of homework and get ready. He's got time right now on his side. So let's look at the other questions we have here. Let's see. Stacy from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Best individual training or drills or tips I can take for the winter break?
Wall. Up against the wall. Against the wall. Banging the ball up against the ball. 1 touch, 2 touch. Balls coming from the air. Controlling the ball on the ground. Just fall in love with playing up against the wall. It's really the best training partner you'll find.
Man, better touch than me. If you all had to pick a sport to help develop you as a better soccer player outside of soccer, what would it be? Devin from Bucks County.
Karate.
Really? I've never heard that answer.
Nice.
No doubt about it.
Huh.
No doubt about it.
Balance and core.
Everything.
Nice.
Strength, balance,
I did it the backwards way. I did karate then soccer.
discipline, coordination, agility, you name it. Ticks everything. No doubt.
Best answer I've got. I know how to revitalize my career now.
There you go.
No, that's great. I love that tip because there's always that thing where you worry about your players getting hurt. Like there's certain sports you cringe. You hear I want to go play football, tackle football. I'm like, you bless every kid that wants to go play another sport. But hey, karate, you're building a lot of character with that player.
Oh yeah.
Stuff that you need in the 80th, 90th minute. that they can muster through.
Well, as a coach, I want that kid on my team just in case it gets a little dicey. Come in.
Johnny, sweep the leg.
No, I'm kidding.
All right, another question. Gabe from New Hope, Pennsylvania. How important is weight training for a soccer player?
Not important at all. I'm anti weight training for soccer players. I think you can become strong without weights. There's more than enough body weight exercises out there that can make you strong, and you keep your agility and mobility, because when you do weights, you really do become slower. And it doesn't work for soccer players. If you look at Barcelona team, do any of these guys look like they're beefed up weightlifters? They're not. They're just little skinny guys that they're strong. They do it all with body weight exercises, and the facts are that all the European teams, or most of them, have gotten away from weights. Most of their fitness workouts now are actually on the field.
You incorporate what makes you better, and you're getting two things out of it.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of it at all.
I mean, either only had one coach have us do that in high school, and we protested, and we tried to tell him why. You don't want to slow yourself down. It's such a speed and skill-oriented sport. It's not a speed and size sport.
Right.
Is he putting some weights on the bench? Putting some plates on there?
Walking around with the weighted ankles, the old 80s.
Oh, boy.
All right, next question from Chrissy in Tampa, Florida. Who will be the next superstar for the U.S. women's national team? This could be like a college player, I guess, or a player in the youth system, players that stick out in you guys' mind that's next big star.
Well, Mel Pugh, she's obviously got a lot of talent. She's a great little player. She stays healthy and keeps her head in it and stays hungry. She's got a lot of potential, I think.
Yeah, I like the idea that she went on to college instead of going pro. There was the offers there that she could have gone straight to pro. Like people like Portland would have picked her up in a second, but I think she still needs that time to develop the mental side and just physically grow still. That, you can overexpose yourself too early in your career, but having an experience with the national team, I think, will only help her.
No doubt. No doubt.
All right. How much of a role model are coaches when addressing referees during games? Gary from South Philly.
That's a tough one. We have a problem with referees in this country. There's a huge percentage of them aren't good enough. And, they go and do a coaching course. They get qualified, and then they're just free to roam our fields, and they're never evaluated. There's no follow-up courses for them. They're not educated on a regular basis, and they really have an impact on our game. We're trying to develop skilled players, and the referees play a part in that. So if you've got a referee that is allowing physical presence in the game, where just letting tackles fly left, right, and centre, these little skilled players that we're trying to unearth, the players that we're talking about, can help us go deep into World Cups. They're getting smothered.
Yeah,
they're getting butchered.
It's become the physical game that the bigger kid wins.
The bigger kids win.
And that's
why
right. We suffer on the international level.
That's right. And, it causes problems on the sidelines with parents. Parents go off because their kids are getting hacked. Referees are going off. Coaches are going off. And it's just nasty. And a few weeks ago, I was at a tournament, and I was there all day. And on every single field, you could see abuse of referees.
Wow.
Now, I feel sorry for them because they're not educated.
Yeah.
They're not being taught the right way. So we've got a big problem there that I think US Soccer really has to fix. You can't just get a license and be free to roam.
I think a lot of the coaches become coaches, not referees, excuse me. It's a job for them.
It's a job. That's the problem.
And when we're coaching at college and club level, I'll see certain referees, and it's funny that's some of the first things you look at as a coach. We're preparing for the game. We're looking up who's our referee today. Oh, we got this guy. Okay, good. We're good. Or we got that guy. Great. We're going to be in for a long day.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the lack of understanding the game, it does make my head spin. It's like, I know the rule book. I read it. Right. I understand the basic rules, and I'm sure you've been at that short end of the stick before too, John, that you shouldn't see a referee and then you have a prejudgment of what the game's going to look like.
Just to give you a little bit of a background is, the high school team that I do coach for isn't a quad A powerhouse school. So we're, on the lower end of the referee spectrum, and they're mostly older guys who've been refereeing for 30 plus years, but can barely get up and down the field, which is fair. But there's one thing for sure is, and this goes back to even before the season starts, is, I have a sit down with my team, and the rule is nobody except for the captain talks to the referee or the other team. Automatic benching. I set it straight, and then I have a meeting with the parents in the school. Nobody talks to the referee. But, sometimes when it's a larger crowd, it gets nothing you can do about it. But at least I can educate my team as far as, hey, they're going to make mistakes. They're not going to get 100% right. So, we're just going to roll on with it. And I also incorporate that into my training during the games. Whenever we do it, I'll make bad calls, and hey, that's what's going to happen in the game, so you better deal with it now. control your emotions, and if you got something to say it to me. Let me be the outlet to the referees, and I'll explain that to them before. I'm like, hey, if they talk to you, let me know. Automatically, they sit down. So it's something that I have to do because it gets out of control. Like these teams want to, other coaches, verbally abuse the referee, then it follows to the kids. I see them making remarks, even if they're, even if it's a job, or if they're passionate to do it for fun, it doesn't make the game better. So it's just one thing that I think can be included.
No, we do that at Philadelphia University. We purposely will referee games, scrimmage, inter-team scrimmage, and purposely bad refereeing. And it's sad that you have to adjust your players to know they're going to miss some calls, like bad calls. And it's sad that we had, and I'm curious, I don't think that when you're in Europe, you're getting top-notch refs.
But they're educated.
Yeah, they know the game. Former players and players.
Well, they know the game, but not only that, they actually have courses for them throughout the year.
Wow!
Like I remember the referees that used to referee our games. Every Wednesday they would get together and they would play a game themselves, and they would critique each other. So one referee would be there refereeing.
It's genius.
And they'd bring it in and they say, they start critiquing and helping each other. Oh, maybe he could have did this, maybe he could have said that. And they help each other out. And there was always, and we always knew when the person was there was always somebody that used to come and watch referees, like a senior referee would come and watch the young referees, and you see them after the game would be providing feedback to them and helping them out.
Yeah, we do that in the other pro leagues, like the NFL's, NCAA. They have a rating system. Like,
there you go.
The referees you see in the Super Bowl, it's based on a rating system. It's kind of the reward that you get to referee the Super Bowl because you did so well, you didn't blow these calls. You know, and then the leagues will come out later, hey, this referee blew the call. We reviewed it and realized we were at fault here. You don't hear about that. It's just, all right, see you guys. I'll see you next week. So definitely a subject we would definitely address. Again, that was Mailbag. Thank you for everybody writing in. Mailbag@worldsportshow.com. We're getting close to running out of time. I'm Charlie Flowe. He's John DiCriscio. We're here with Coach James Galanis, and so many stories and things that we could cover. And it's just glad to have you back in studio.
Oh, thank you, mate.
I've been busy traveling around Europe and everywhere.
Yeah, just plotting along, mate. Just trying to make ends meet, so to speak.
Yeah, hey, we're all getting to coach a beautiful game, and as long as we get to do that and then talk about it on the radio, life is good. So next week on our show, we will have in studio Adam Bruckner. He's a former player with the Pennsylvania Roar, the one-year team that John and I worked for, but we'll probably better know him here in the Philadelphia area from the Philadelphia Kicks days, winning championships. He's very active in the homeless community here in Philadelphia. We're going to have Adam Bruckner in studio next Monday night, World Sports Show, 9 p.m. If you're listening on the replay, thank you so much. You're listening to World Sports Show on WPPM LP. We're out.
We actually still got I'm going to give you another minute.
Oh, I thought you said wrap it up.
I'm going to grant you another minute.
Oh, you're going to grant me another minute.
We got another minute. So
I thought you were telling me to wrap it up like I was done. My bad.
Oh, man, wrap it up. Also,
wrap it up, box.
Keep checking it out. There's a couple more sports shows on the station, 106.5, Sunday mornings, 10 a.m., 215 Sports. Check them out. Good show.
Also have the 10:30 spot on Saturday morning, the Broad Street line. So check out those shows. Tune in all the other great shows here on WPPM LP Philadelphia. I'm Charlie Flowe. He's John DiCriscio, and James Galanis. I'm tired and I'm out.